Levitation, you had mentioned shape-shifting.
Yeah, I've seen levitation twice.
What are you thinking when you see levitation?
There was an actual case where this guy that was possessed started speaking a form of Phoenician that had been defunct for 3,500 years.
Did you see that somebody that can turn their head 360 degrees, the spider walk?
Beelzebub, he looks the same in every case I've ever had him in, where the jaw extends out, the eyes become bloodshot, and they narrow, and the top of the head narrows.
What are some of the things you've seen during an exorcism? Levitation, you had mentioned shape-shifting.
Yeah. If you've seen it on Hollywood, I've seen it. But it's only in about 7% of the cases are you going to see things that are really out there. Most of the cases, the thing that you're going to see the most of is morphing. That's our technical name for it. You're mentioning shape shifting. We call it morphing, which is basically where the person changes form or shape. And that's about, in the cases that you have, that's about 80 to 90% of what you're going to see, where the person will actually change shape. And so they'll, for example, the women will change, all of a sudden their facial structure changes and it looks like a man. So,
Like a skinwalker.
yeah, exactly. And so there's also certain kind of complexion changes, but the morphing can be everything from just all of a sudden that women kind of look like a man, all the way down to they'll change into the shape of animals. Usually, like I said, if you're seeing the change of shape, it's telling you something about them. And that's why, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, they tend to be showmen. And so a lot of it's just parlor tricks. You have to know when you're just being played with and just ignore it. Which is with levitation, I just don't tolerate it. I've seen it. And
How many times have you seen it?
I've only seen it twice, but that's only because I tend to see other things like extreme forms of occult knowledge where people know stuff that there's no way this person could ever know this. Exorcists, well, so like if you go to Italy, there's one exorcist, he sees levitation almost all the time. Other exorcists who have done it as long as I have never even seen it. So it changes depending based upon the particular exorcist. He'll tend to see more things other than once. Seen a lot of morphing, that type of thing. But the one I tend to see the most is occult knowledge or language, speaking languages that there's no way. In fact, I kind of laughed because when they put out the movie Nefarious, they were doing interviews afterwards, and they said, "Oh yeah, we consulted Father Ripperger." I'm like, I don't remember talking to these guys. So I contacted my, they seemed straightforward enough, and their movie was actually pretty decent as far as it goes. And I'm like, so I asked my assistant, do we have any interaction with these guys? No, we got none. Well, then later they said, oh no, we just listened to all these videos, right? But in there they got something wrong though, because there was an actual case where this guy that was possessed started speaking a form of Phoenician that had been defunct for 3,500 years. We didn't even know what he was speaking. We had to write it down phonetically, and then somebody who studies languages took a look at it and said, we think that's how this particular form of Phoenician was spoken. This kid didn't even finish high school. So you'll see, so they'll see different things, but yeah, I've seen levitation twice.
Like I said, what are you thinking when you see levitation?
I get annoyed by it, frankly.
That's it? You just get annoyed?
Yeah, because of the fact that usually they're doing it like the case that I had, one of them was Ball. He likes levitating. So I just don't tolerate it because he's trying to distract you and get you focusing on, well, that's kind of weird. Never seen that before. That's what he's trying to get you to do when you should be focusing on other things and just hammering him. And it's just his way to try and gain control over the particular sessions. So that's why I just don't tolerate it. That's why in the beginning I said those set of prayers we say before we start the formal rite to clamp down on any of that type of thing from happening.
Do you ever worry that you'll be the one that's deceived?
Well, you get deceived from time to time as an exorcist anyway, because you'll ask them not necessarily about the broader picture like in theology or things like that, but they're going to deceive you about the particulars of the case. They'll say things like, oh, well, the way you're going to get me out of here is you have to say this prayer, over her 3 times or something like that. And then so you're like, all right, that could be the case. So then you say it 3 times and then nothing happens. And then they'll laugh at you and you just work on your humility, knowing that that's going to happen and Christ lets it happen for the sake of your own sanctification and for your own recognition that ultimately they only have to tell you what they tell you when he tells them they have to tell you. And so even though you're commanding them, and sometimes they'll give you information because Christ tells them, okay, you can tell them this stuff, but you can't talk about this stuff yet, or what have you. And so there's times when you're hammering them for weeks on end, and they say, I'll tell you, I can't, he won't let me tell you. Now sometimes they're lying even about that, but usually you can kind of tell. Because the way that when they're telling you the truth about something when they're under duress is they'll give you a flat panned answer, like, no, it's this. Whereas they're bad liars, so when they're lying to you, it's like listening to a 16-year-old girl who got caught being outside the house by her father. Like, what are you doing outside? No, it wasn't this, that kind of a thing. So they're bad. They're really bad liars as a general, and the stuff that they propose is just silly. But the other thing is it's coherent. It's called the principle of coherence. It fits the possession case, or what you know theologically to be the case. And so, that this particular, so for one case, the demons kept saying she has to go to Lourdes. She has to go to Lourdes. Well, God had been giving her grace to want to go to Lourdes and go into the waters. And so she went to Lourdes, went into the waters, and came out, and then was partially liberated. So there's a lot of times you can kind of ferret out, but you do get deceived. It's just part of the humiliation. The other thing is, too, is they'll make a fool of you. They have from time to time, because they know we're just not that bright compared to them. And they also have, they know the structure and the dynamics of the spiritual realities that we're dealing with, which we don't necessarily know them. And so they know we don't know them. But that's why, as an exorcist, you have to stay in your lane. You have to stay. There's a set of principles and ways in which you proceed, and you just stay there, and eventually you'll get him out. Just don't go outside that, because they'll try and entice you outside those lanes.
What are some of the other things that you've seen? I mean, have you seen somebody that can turn their head 360 degrees, the spider walk?
Yeah, I've seen, I haven't seen the 360 degree head turning, but I have seen, like where the fingers just are like completely turned back on the thing, or they'll be like this instead of, like this. So you'll see things that you actually see like, and that's actually part of the morphing, in relationship to the thing. Like I said, the thing I tend to see the most is the demons manifesting in their characteristics in a full-blown manner. So once the demons get to a certain point where the threshold, their pain is such, they can't hide from you, they're in the manifestation, because they're controlling the manifestation and they're controlling what you see. But when they reach a certain level, they start breaking down. And so, just seeing full-blown manifestations where they, for example, with Beelzebub, he would always, he looks the same in every case I've ever had him in, where the jaw extends out, the eyes narrow, and then, or the eyes become bloodshot, they narrow, and the top of the head narrows. And the complexion becomes, it looks like someone who's had super bad acne. So you get that kind of complexion change, color changes. I've seen a lot of color changes that you see in people. Saw a woman, she was possessed by a demon who responded to the title Vitae Raptor, which is robber of life. So the first time we got him to manifest, it was in front of the Blessed Sacrament. It's a ritual that's done in front of the Blessed Sacrament. When he finally manifested, literally her face just like caved in, and she literally turned completely jet black like a corpse. And so I'm like, well, there he is. So you'll see things like that.
Do any of these demons intimidate you? Any specific ones?
No. Part of the reason is because I know that if I stay in my lane, and as long as I'm doing what Christ is asking me to do, and I stay under his protection, that I'm going to be safe. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to get beat around a little bit. You're stepping into a boxing ring, so you're going to get beat around a little bit. That I get. But if you stay in your lane, you're going to be able to handle it, and God's going to give you the grace and be able to use it. When demons attack me again, they always say, with a boxer, you can watch all the films you like about the boxer, but it's not until you're in the ring with him that you actually get a sense of what he's really like in the ring. And it's the same thing with them. It's when you're in the boxing ring, anytime they attack you, the cause is always some way in the effect. So they actually reveal something about you. So one time I was attacked by this one demon of fear that was possessing this one woman, and it actually gave me a sense of the species, or the nature of the fear, the quality of it, the degree of it. It gave me a sense of it, and so when we went into the next session, I was able to bind that and hammer it, and then start doing what I call the pinata game. Okay, I've hit the thing. Now you just go around it and you just keep whacking it until you find out from different angles what more information you can get out of that particular thing. And so, in one demon even one time said to me, he said, I'm not talking to you anymore. So I commanded him in the name of Jesus Christ, commanded to tell me why. He says, every time I say something, you use it against me. I almost said to him, well, what do you think this is? So that's the thing. So when they attack you, they don't really intimidate you. I've only been scared twice in a session. One is the first time I did it, and it wasn't about the demon. It was like, I hope I don't do something stupid. But then the only other time was in a case that I worked on where the demon he just would not obey what I was telling him to do. So I just mentally said to God the Father, I said, punish him in a way he's never been punished before. And all of a sudden, the woman who's possessed just goes down on her knees, completely manifests into literally looks exactly like this demon. And all of a sudden, he just screams out this horrific scream, painful scream. But it wasn't loud, not much louder than you and I were talking, but it was the type of sound that Hollywood could not recreate. It was the type of sound where it literally reverberated throughout the entire church. We were actually in the basement, and my sacristan, who's all the way on the other side, heard it. It didn't shake the foundation of the church, but it was like just reverberated so strong that when he heard that, he went running out. And when I looked at his face when the demon was screaming, the thought that ran through my mind was, that's what hell looks like. This is what someone in hell looks like. And then the other thing that ran through my mind is the severity and exactitude of God's justice, that God will not be mocked. So people are going to, you have to pay for your sin. And he extracts it from the demons. They'll tell you that he sets them up very often to have to suffer some punishment so that the particular sin that they committed is avenged.
Can you describe what that looks like? When you just talked about the demon manifesting itself in its true form, what did that look like?
So basically, this was Beelzebub. So her face completely morphed. This woman turned into the facial structure of a man. The jaws literally extend out like this. Now the eyes go narrow. Because Beelzebub's the demon of impurity, the eyes go bloodshot, which is an indicator that people who suffer from lust don't see reality for what it is, but the eyes went completely bloodshot. The head narrowed. And then her complexion, as I mentioned, turns into that. But then there's a change in color to where it's a color that no human being can replicate. The authors refer to it as cherry wood color, which is this brown red color that looks like someone who is literally in the middle of a fire burning. So that's what you see. And then of course there is the burnt look around the various facial features, so that there's this darkness or blackness around the particular facial features. And then of course the body gets bulkier in size.
When you talk about, the fingers becoming disjointed, and what's the recovery period look like?
Strangely enough, there's only certain kinds of affliction that the demons, when they manifest, that the person actually has to recover from. Most of the things like that, the person doesn't feel anything, or they don't have to have any recovery. They come out feeling normal, and things turn back to their natural shape, and they don't have anything to recover from.
No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.